So why are you really here? And what are you creating? I'm Ryan Lilly, and for the last decade I've helped people to overcome their fears, to pursue their passions, to reconnect with their innate creativity, and to become successful entrepreneurs. I'm a huge fan of personal development and have studied under people like Tony Robbins, Jack Canfield, and Gary Vee, to name just a few. But now I'm taking the leap myself. I'm crossing the coals, and I'm finding out what it means to live life on purpose. Let's turn your fears into a new purpose. This is the Fear into Purpose podcast. All right, welcome to the Fear into Purpose podcast. This is episode number 3, and today we are so grateful to have as our guest Debbie Littlefield. She is a certified hypnotist and a certified mental strength counselor. Did I get that right, Debbie?
Mental strength trainer or counselor. Yeah.
Mental strength trainer. And again, Debbie is a hypnotist, and today we'll learn about what that means and how that applies to personal development and overcoming whatever challenges you may have in your life. I know that there's stereotypes out there about every field and every career, and certainly some people imagine a hypnotist as what we might see in popular culture as someone who's got a pocket watch and they're doing this, or maybe we've seen hypnotism for entertainment where people have done weird and wacky things. This is not that at all. And so today we'll get a better understanding of what Debbie's work entails, and again, how it can be used to really help you overcome some challenges in your life. So thank you again so much, Debbie, for being here today.
Thank you, Ryan.
Debbie, if we could, just jumping right in, tell us a little bit about your story. And before you started working with hypnosis, what were you doing?
Oh, well, I was a mother of 6. And well, I still am a mother of 6, but they're all grown now. And I was a single mom a lot of the time. And to support my children, I opened a child care. So I was doing child care with 6 children. So you can imagine the stress and overwhelm I might have been feeling at the time. It was kind of a crazy time for me. So I was working 12 hours in the child care and then caring for my children during and after.
Great. And I think, did I remember at some point in your life you lived on a farm, or you had a farm?
Well, my child care was, I had a 2,800 square foot home. So the child care was on the lower level and it was on 7.5 acres. So we had, my older boys did 4-H for 7 years. And so we had sheep and goats and chickens and all kinds of fun things. It was basically a petting zoo. The child care the kids in the child care would help out with those as well. You know, bottle feed the goats and help feed the chickens and collect eggs. And it was all part of our daily life.
Very nice. So what led you into doing this work? How did you first get introduced to hypnotism, and how did you become doing it yourself?
Well, as I mentioned, I was in complete overwhelm with everything that was going on in my life. And something told me to look up meditation. And I looked it up. I Googled meditation. I hadn't been meditating. I didn't really know anything about it. And I Googled it, and up came this YouTube video. Now, I never even played on YouTube before. And I was like, well, all right. So I did it. I listened to the audio, and it just blew my mind. I mean, I never felt like that before. And it was like the beginning of a whole new journey of learning that thoughts, what we acquire, our life is formed around what we're thinking.
So that's a good lead-in. How is meditation similar to hypnosis? What do meditation and hypnosis have in common for you?
Well, meditation and hypnosis are very similar states. They're both a focused, relaxed state. In meditation, we let go of thoughts. And in hypnosis, we're focusing more on a thought. So we're like, instead of letting go, we're installing a certain thought or belief. Hypnosis can be used to change your thinking. So if you're thinking along the lines that I'm not good enough, we can install like memories of times that you were feeling worthy and good enough. And then the subconscious mind will start to pick up on that. And then you'll start to live as if.
So would you say that meditation is a more passive state, whereas hypnosis is more actively changing those patterns in the brain?
Correct, correct.
Okay, great. So how would you sort of define hypnosis? And again, give us a picture of what hypnosis looks like for you and your clients. Again, people might think of that stereotype that you're using a watch, or what does hypnosis in a professional setting look like?
Well, yeah, you're right. Most people they expect the watch, and the watch can be used for hypnosis because the idea is to bypass the critical mind. So if you're focusing on the watch, going back and forth, your your mind is preoccupied. It's kind of like, have you ever driven somewhere, Ryan? And then when you got there, you couldn't remember how you got there.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, yeah, I think everybody's done that before. That is you in hypnosis. So the critical mind is totally preoccupied with something else, and the subconscious mind just takes over, and it does the driving for you. And that is what the hypnotic state is a relaxed, focused state. And the purpose of the watch is to get that critical mind focused on something different.
So would you say that most of us are already in a state of hypnosis in our lives and we may not realize it? You mentioned the example of driving, but if you're in a meeting and someone might call that being zoned out, but your mind is in another place, is that similar to hypnosis?
It's very similar to hypnosis. We go in and out of hypnosis many times in a day naturally, and we don't realize it. I think people come alarmed about hypnosis because of they've seen on television people controlling other people's minds. That is not possible. It's or people will, oh, what if I get stuck in hypnosis? Now, at the very most, you'll take a nice long nap and wake up really refreshed and relaxed, but nobody's ever become stuck in hypnosis.
So,
So it's the media has caused a lot of fear around hypnosis, when actually it's a very good therapeutic thing to do. And it's very relaxing, very stress relieving. So even if nothing else, you get those benefits from it. It's just amazing.
it's interesting you mentioned feeling very relaxed and like you have had a long sleep. I went through, the only time I've had an experience with hypnosis was in a seminar setting, and someone did that, and I wasn't familiar that's what they were doing, but we thought it was more like a meditation, but it was actually hypnosis. But at the end of it, it actually felt like I had been asleep for like 5 hours. And in reality, it had only been like 15 or 20 minutes that we were in this kind of state. So it's interesting
Exactly.
how calming that is.
It's very calming. And people will say, well, I wasn't hypnotized. And you can say, well, how much time has passed? And they'll go, oh, like 5, 10 minutes. And it's been an hour.
The
And it's like,
perception of time is very interesting when you're in that state.
right, right. But if you go in hypnosis for just 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you can restart your entire day. You're like totally refreshed and renewed and ready to go.
Now, Debbie, does hypnosis work for everyone? Does someone have to be suggestible or open to suggestion in order for hypnosis to work for them?
I would say hypnosis does work for everybody. I mean, it definitely helps if you're willing, but I've like done a conference setting like you talked, and in a couple different settings. Like one woman, she's like, well, I'm not going to participate. And I'm like, well, that's fine. Just sit there and just
Observe.
watch what goes on. Just observe. And and I just talk. And that's what I use. I use my voice and my language to hypnotize people. I don't have the watch. That's all I use. And before I know it, she's like, in a very relaxed and comfortable state. And when she come back, she had no objection. She was very happy. And, I was doing a conference. I was doing a mindset. I did a talk about how your mindset can shift your life. And I did a hypnosis afterwards. And this woman came up to me and she goes, "I've been to a hypnotist 3 times and they couldn't hypnotize me. How did you do that?" And it was just, I think, because she wasn't expecting it. So she wasn't fighting against it. She was just sitting there listening and listening to me talk. And so she was able to experience hypnosis.
Now, are you using music as well, or is it just your voice that people are hearing?
When I'm doing live hypnosis, like I love to do group journey lives. I'll go and just relax a whole bunch of folks. Usually it's just about love, kindness, peace, feeling peaceful, and those kind of things in a group setting, because I have no idea what those people need. So I keep it very broad, very general, and it's just very relaxing. And in those settings, it's just my voice. And when I make custom hypnotic audio. So if somebody wants a mind shift, I will put some binaural beats in the background of that. So when they're listening, they relax even more.
So for people that aren't familiar, what are binaural beats and how does that add to the experience?
Well, it's kind of like brain entertainment. So they're just beats and things going off in the background. And they have different vibrations, so they'll lead to different states of consciousness, if you will. But it really amplifies the hypnosis. So it just entertains the brain and allows you to go deeper into hypnosis.
So you were just talking about doing this in a group setting and you have audios and obviously you work individually with clients. How does it differ in those different settings, those different environments, working with a group versus working one-on-one? What are you able to accomplish in each of those scenarios?
When I do the groups, Ryan, it's pretty much for fun, for relaxation, for a treat for somebody. I want to treat my staff to a nice hypnotic, journey, and it's just a relaxing venture. Or it helps people like become aware that, not every hypnotist is going to turn you into a chicken. And it's very general. I keep it very general. I think the only time I did something that was very pinpoint, somebody asked me to do a health seminar, and I did hypnosis for not eating sugar and eating healthier. But normally, I keep it really general so everybody in the room can enjoy an experience. With the audios, those are very customized. People will tell me exactly what mind shift that they're looking for, and I get some background information on what triggers why they're not doing it, and create an audio for them that they can listen to over and over again.
So what are those specific things that you find people are trying to overcome? Is it addictions like smoking or eating? What are those different applications that you have for hypnosis?
I have done several for weight loss. Actually, a lot of them for weight loss and smoking. Those are very popular ones, and people already seem to know that hypnosis works for those things. I helped a woman with insomnia. She told me she had not slept for 15 years.
Wow.
15 years. And I still get letters of gratitude from her, And this was almost like 2 years ago. She said, it's just changed her life because, she's not grumpy and she's a lot more alert and her family life is really improved and just a lot of great things. I help people. This one particular gentleman wanted to excel in his workplace. He was an insurance person. And so I didn't even understand the lingo that he gave me, but I could put it into the hypnosis in such a way that he got it, you know. And so he's really excelling in his industry and doing really quite well.
So in that
So
application of business and performing better at sales and doing better in business, is that a self-confidence component that you're working on with hypnosis, or what part of the brain are you speaking to in order to improve it, your business?
most times it is confidence. Most times. In this particular case, this man had very particular goals. This is what I want to reach, and this is why I want to reach it, and this is why when I want to reach it by. And yeah, so he was already confident. He just needed to be able to focus and visualize on what he was going to see in his future.
Visualization, I imagine, is such a huge part of it. And I know some people are familiar with the law of attraction and seeing
Yeah.
your future and really visually imagining what that would look like. Is that a big part of hypnosis, is imagining this desired future and really seeing yourself in that place?
Right. If you can see yourself in that place already, then the subconscious mind will kick in and you'll start to behave as if you've already done those things. So
Sure.
yeah, it's very, very useful for the law of attraction, and really it's useful for just about anything as part of a hypnotic journey that I'll put somebody on. All of them start with a relaxation. So everybody's going to feel very calm, very relaxed. That's my favorite part anyway. That's what I love to do, is help people feel that calm, peaceful feeling. And then after that, we'll talk about the changes that they want to make. And then they're led to see themselves after those changes. You know, so people will be congratulating them for if it was weight loss, you know, they'll go through the whole thing about losing weight, and then they'll go through a thing where people are congratulating them or asking them, how did you do that? And, you know, and then giving advice. So when they come through, then they have already had the feeling that this is already happening. So they start to act more so.
What would you say is a trigger? Sort of define trigger for us, and then what is an association? So by trigger, what things in an environment might cause a certain behavior, and as a hypnotist, how do you work with those triggers, and then the associations that people make to those behaviors? So in the case of like a negative behavior like smoking, do you alter that association so that when they see a cigarette or taste a cigarette, they experience something negative?
Yes. So like with smoking, I've done it. So when they feel like they're wanting a cigarette, that the thought of having a cigarette will make them feel ill or make their mouth hot or something, you know, really repulsive. So they don't want to do it. This one woman, she wanted for eating. She goes, I know I can lose weight if I can quit eating this particular snack. Now, I have no idea what this snack is. I just know that there was the snack. And I made it so every time she put the snack in her mouth, it felt soggy and stale. And she wrote me and she's like, I was having an extremely stressful day. And I went into the store to purchase that snack. And she said, when I got to it, I couldn't do it. And she's never ate that snack again. And
Wow.
I find it really interesting that I don't even know what the snack was. But yeah, so you just turn it around. So it's not appealing for them any longer.
And what about triggers in our environment, like seeing something or hearing something that causes us to behave a certain way? How do we get more aware of triggers? Like so many of us, I don't think we realize that. For example, if you're overeating and maybe you're overweight, maybe there's stress is a trigger for you in your environment that causes you to do that. But we're not aware of that. It's sort of subconscious. How do you help people more consciously deal with those triggers that exist around them?
Well, when I'm interviewing them, I ask them when did these behaviors kick in the most, and bring it, you know, to their awareness that you know, you're being triggered at this time. You know, you're feeling boredom, so you're going to eat the snack, or you're feeling stressed, so you're going to go smoke a cigarette, or you're worried about your children, so you're not sleeping, or what is that trigger?
Gotcha. How long does a typical session last? And again, I know you do it in different settings, individually, in groups and audio sessions, but how long is a session? And then also, how frequently does that need to be practiced in order to become part of your everyday thinking?
Well, that depends on the person, how bad they really want it. If they really want the behavior change, they will listen to their audio and with the idea that I'm going to change now. This is going to help change me. And I recommend that they listen to their audio every day for a couple of weeks. And then anytime after that, that they just feel that they need a tune-up, that they go back and they listen to it. The lady I told you with the particular snack, she listened to it every day for 2 weeks, and then she listens to it once a week,
Right.
just to keep her going.
Just to be able to go
But
back to it again and again.
right,
Right.
right. And I usually make them about 30 minutes in length. And they are very relaxing. So a lot of people choose to listen to them at bedtime. And I make them so you can listen to it in the day, because I will count you up so you come back to full awareness. But I also, in the audios, I will instruct, if you're ready for bed, to ignore the count and just go right to sleep. And so that works out for a lot of people. They'll just drift off to sleep instead of counting up, but it can be used either way.
So I just got back from a trip today in the car, about a 2 hour long trip each way. And I was listening to a meditation CD that went over different meditation techniques and practices. And I realized that it may not have been a great idea in the car, because I was so relaxed and I was starting to get sleepy, I had to turn it off. And I know that that's a struggle for some people when it comes to meditation, is that they try to meditate and then they drift off to sleep. Is that true of hypnosis as well? As you're working with clients, have you ever had anybody fall asleep on you? And how do you work with that?
A lot of times people will go to sleep. In the last group live I did, I specifically put in the hypnosis that they would stay on that borderline, so their body would feel like it was asleep, but their mind would remain conscious. And that worked out really well. Nobody fell asleep. But a lot of times when I'm doing the group relaxation sessions, I just let people drift off. And so there'll be snoring, and that's okay, because a lot of times people will come and they'll tell me, Ryan, I've never felt that before, and I'm like, you've never relaxed? No, I don't remember ever feeling relaxed that way. And it makes me wonder, how do people calm themselves down if they can't remember what that feels like to be calm?
Hmm.
And maybe that has a little bit to do with why people, the world is escalating and getting more and more agitated, is because we we get to that place of agitation, but if we can't remember what it feels like to be calm, we don't know how to calm ourselves.
And it's
So
like
I
a lot of us are in this constant state of tension too. Like sometimes people will wake up in the morning and they haven't even started their day yet, and already we're holding this tension in our body. It's like it's constantly with us.
exactly. So when I'm doing the group relaxations, I just let people go, and if they want to fall out, I just let it happen. And in some settings, not always, like in a conference or in things like that, where people are sitting up in chairs. I really can't do that, to that extent. But yeah, like I've done sessions at like yoga studios, and the people just lay out on the floor and they're expecting deep relaxation. A lot of them will just go.
Going back real quick to what we talked about a little while ago with using hypnosis for business and for improving your confidence. So many people have that negative self-talk that holds them back from success and trying something new in life. And that's what this podcast is all about: people overcoming their fears in order to pursue their purpose in life. And a lot of that's, like I said, that negative self-talk. Um, a lot of it are repeating things that we say to ourselves, certain like the positive side of this would be a mantra, something you, like, or an affirmation that you would say to yourself. But a lot of us have those negative lines we're constantly saying. Do people, as a part of your hypnosis work, do they develop those positive mantras and affirmations to replace the negative ones?
Exactly. When we're in those thought patterns and we're telling ourselves, this will never work out, I'm not good enough, I can never do this, I'll never be as good at podcasting as Ryan is, or whatever it is that is a form of self-hypnosis. You are telling yourself over and over and over until you believe it. And recognizing those patterns and stopping and saying, it doesn't serve me to think this way. I want to go on that podcast and I want to do a good job, and I'll be confident. And so you start telling yourself a new story. And that's what hypnosis actually is telling yourself a new story. So you can go on to do the things that you want to do, because you spent your whole life hypnotizing yourself, telling yourself things that will hold you back. And when I very first started this journey, I'm sorry, but this is kind of important to me. When I first started this journey, I started with what I called a mindfulness bell. And have you ever heard of it?
Can you say that again? A mindfulness?
A mindfulness bell.
No, I haven't heard of that.
It was an app. It was an app I put on my computer, and it was just a bell that rang. And everybody around me, my kids, they would go, "What is that?" And I was like, "It's a reminder to remind me what I was thinking about." And every 15 minutes, this bell would go off, and I would stop, and I would think about what I was thinking about. How many people do that? And so many times in the day, I was telling myself some god-awful things, And then after I realized that, then I started to go on to replace those things with things that better served me. And that's how I got started, actually, in the hypnosis, was recognizing that I was hypnotizing myself to believe that I was not good enough, that I could never do these things, that nobody would ever listen to my story, and just over and over, and it really it made a huge difference.
When we say hypnotize ourselves, it's also coming though from our environment, right? So the beliefs that are instilled in us as children from our family, our parents, what our people around us are saying, our coworkers, we internalize that, right? And that becomes the self-hypnosis.
Right. Our subconscious mind stores, and it doesn't store what actually happened. This is very interesting. It stores our perception of what happened. Do we have a few minutes? I'd like to tell you a story.
Yes, I'd love a story.
Okay. There's this woman named Rose, and she grew up with an older brother that excelled at everything. And this made her feel like she never could measure up, that she would never be good enough. And because of that, she grew very shy, very withdrawn. And one day, while she was driving to pick up her daughter from dance, she was in a really horrible accident. And after being removed from her car by the jaws of life, she found herself in the hospital, unable to remember who she was. Now, unable to remember who she was, she wrote a paper about her experience with hypnosis. And she shared it, her experience with amnesia. And she shared it with her doctor. And her doctor's like, "Oh my gosh, this is great. Would you mind sharing this with a panel of doctors so they could understand the amnesia as well?" And she agreed to do it. This really shy person, because she couldn't remember that she had told herself that she wasn't good enough. She couldn't remember all the things that she saddled herself with. And she went on to speak to people with a lot higher formal education. It's amazing. We tell ourselves these things, and but they're just not true. It was
Related.
all about her perception of, because her brother excelled, that she failed, and she allowed that to take over her entire life.
So related to self-confidence, that idea that I'm not good enough, what are some other things that someone might say to themselves related to self-confidence, similar to I'm not good enough, that you encounter with your clients?
Well, going back to like past experiences, if you ever did something that didn't turn out so good, then the next time that comes up, that memory, even if you don't actually remember the incident, that feeling of, oh, I can't do it, will come up.
Right.
And you need to recognize that feeling, that voice that's telling you something bad is going to happen, is because of a past experience that you may remember, may not remember, and that you need to go ahead and try to do it again. I like to look at everything as practice. So this podcast is practice for the next podcast that I do, the next time that I'm being interviewed. And that really gives me a lot of freedom, because I can look afterwards and I can say, well, I could improve in these ways, and that wasn't so good, but that's okay. The next time will be even better. It just lightens things up. So everything's practice for the next time.
I love that constant improvement, that you're
Yes,
each time
yes.
getting better and better.
And it's just practice. If when you asked me to be on this podcast, Ryan, if I would have brought up all the times that I'd been interviewed that didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But because I viewed that time as practice and this time as practice, and the next time will be practice for the next time, I can just relax and allow it to get better with time.
And enjoy the present moment and the time we have together.
Exactly.
That's great.
Exactly.
That's great. What let's see, what my next question here is, when you're doing these sessions with people, you mentioned those past memories, those past experiences, and maybe someone's had some trauma in their life. Maybe they've been abused, or they've been a veteran with PTSD or something like that, some traumatic experience that can obviously be very painful to bring up and to go through. How does that work in your setting, and how do you help people with those past memories?
Those are very hard for me and for them. It's like it's everything that I do. I always try to instill comfort and peace and calm. So any session that I do, they'll walk away feeling more peaceful and calmer and more loved. And working with specific trauma, you have to be very careful, because you don't want to trigger things further, but you want to turn it around so they're not feeling that anymore.
Sure.
And yeah, it's really, working with the client and finding out what those triggers are and installing a new anchor and allowing them to feel some comfort as well.
And what role does a person's family or support structure play after that? So after you've had a session with someone and you've helped them, to reset some of these triggers or associations, does a family or people close to that person, do they need to be aware of that? Do they need to, are there certain responsibilities or things they need to do post hypnosis?
Well, I don't think I've ever had anyone include their family in it, that to my knowledge. I'm sure, the woman that was hypnotized for sleep, I know her family was directly involved, because they were so happy she was sleeping, and she shared that with them. But whether or not somebody wants to share their trauma, or the fact that they're working on it, a lot of times that can work against, it depends on the family, and it depends on the family structure.
Sure.
Some people will go, oh, you're doing hypnosis, that's so hokey, and she's just taking your money and blah, 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 that wouldn't benefit them to share, So I would say it's mostly a very personal journey.
Sure. I could see that, certainly. How can people learn more about you? And again, your audio programs, I know that they're available online. How can people find those and search you out?
Oh, thank you. I have a website that's called modifymymind.com. And you can go there, and there's a blog and different services that I provide that if you're interested. I have a podcast called Hypnotic Journeys by Debbie, and that's available on Spotify and Anchor, and I think 5 other platforms. I'm not sure.
And I'll put a link to that here in the comments and in the video. So again, you said that was what was the name of the podcast again, Debbie?
Hypnotic Journeys by Debbie.
Perfect. All right, and we look forward to listening to that. And do you interview people, or do you do hypnosis in those podcasts, or what's the format?
Most of them are hypnotic journeys. I
Okay.
have one for being able to network, in groups of people. Another one is just relaxation, and then another one it's one that I normally do live, that I went ahead and put on a podcast. And then there's some talks about mind shifts and like motivational talks.
Wonderful.
So it's kind of a mixture.
Great. And is there MP3s you can download, or CDs you order, or what kind of format are they in?
Well,
They're
MP3s. It's a podcast, so
right.
They just listen. When people order a custom hypnotic audio, it'll be an MP3.
Got it. Okay.
That they just download onto their device.
And I would definitely recommend anybody listening that you check that out. I know a few people who have ordered Debbie's custom audios and have benefited greatly from them. So everybody please check that out. Debbie, anything else that we missed, or anything else you'd like to say today?
I'd just like to thank you, Ryan, for having me on. It was a pleasure, and I love your podcast, and I'm so happy for your audience that they have your knowledge that you're sharing with them. It's really a great thing.
Well, thank you so much, Debbie. And again, that's Debbie Littlefield from Modify My Mind. I'll put all the links in the comments, and we look forward to seeing you next week for another episode. Next week, we're going to have Debbie Lincoln with us, so don't confuse Debbie Lincoln with Debbie Littlefield. And we'll be talking about Debbie's story and personal development. So again, thank you, Debbie Littlefield, for being here today, and we'll see you all next time.